Hit 3. Brutality. The rise of a Telugu franchise. In a cinematic landscape increasingly desensitized to violence, there emerges a franchise that embraces brutality not as a gimmick but as a narrative tool. Hit 3, the third installment in the hit homicide intervention team universe, does not flinch in its portrayal of gore, it revels in it. From the chilling opening sequence of a man being sliced in half to the visceral image of blood staining the roof, the film announces its unrelenting tone early on. But what makes Hit 3 more than just a blood-soaked thriller is the emotional and psychological journey of its protagonist. Arjun Sarkar, played with ruthless conviction by Nani. The evolution of a franchise. From its inception, the hit series has quietly but confidently carved out a niche in Telugu cinema. With no overt declarations of grandeur or pan-Indian appeal, the franchise has steadily grown a loyal audience that respects it for what it is: an organic, character-driven crime saga. Hit 3 pushes the boundaries further, scaling up its narrative scope to a national level. This is no longer just a local police investigation. It's a multi-state manhunt that leads the protagonist across Jammu and Kashmir, Bihar, Rajasthan, and Vishaka Patnam. The case at hand is chilling. A string of murders across these diverse locations, each connected by a dark, twisted pattern. Arjun, stationed initially in Kashmir, begins to trace these links. His unconventional investigative methods drawing both admiration and frustration from his superiors. As the layers of the mystery unfold, so does the psychological unraveling of a man deeply entrenched in violence and grief. Nani as Arjun Sarkar, a role beyond heroism. It's rare to see an actor surrender so completely to the madness of a role. Nani's portrayal of Arjun Sarkar is not about likability, it's about authenticity. Arjun is rude, dismissive, and often reckless. He sees rules as obstacles and sentimentality as weakness. His pursuit of justice is unorthodox and at times brutal. Whether it's using a baseball bat or a police baton to extract information or slipping into a trance-like state during interrogations, Arjun becomes an instrument of rage, guided only by instinct and pain. Nani plays this character with a blend of swagger and psychosis. There's a moment where Arjun, bloodied and wounded, pours alcohol directly on his injuries while silently smoking a cigar. It's not just a stylistic flourish, it's a statement of who he is, a man numbing his emotional wounds through physical suffering. This performance stands as a testament to Nani's versatility. From the emotionally layered roles in Hainana to the grittier avatars in Dasara and Saripodha Sanivaram, he continues to challenge himself. As both actor and producer, he backs original voices and daring stories, a rare trait in the commercial cinema space. The world of Hit 3 grounded, expansive. One of the most striking elements of Hit 3 is its production design. Often big-budget films make tall claims only to fall flat in execution, but here every rupee feels accounted for. The terrains of India, from snow-capped valleys to arid deserts, are not just backdrops, they are integral to the storytelling. Each location feels lived in and authentic. Even the choice of vehicles becomes symbolic. Arjun's SUV lineup reads like a map of India: a Rubicon in Andhra, a Hilux in Kashmir, a Gurkha in Rajasthan, and a Pajero in Bihar. These aren't just visual choices. They underline how mobile and reactive Arjun has become in his mission. The cinematography by S. Manikandan enhances this sense of scale, especially in sequences set in Kashmir, where the political tension adds another layer to the story. The antagonist's lair, a place of pure psychological terror, is also a triumph in set design. Without giving away too much, it's a deranged space that reflects the sick mind behind the crimes. Credit goes to production designer Sri Nagendra Tangala for building an environment that disturbs as much as it immerses. As Hit 3 kicks off with relentless energy and cinematic tension, one expects the momentum to carry through consistently. But somewhere in the first half of the film, this kinetic drive is interrupted, not by the villain, not by the complexity of the case, but by something seemingly benign, a love story. Romance as a roadblock. Enter Shrilila Shetty as Prithvi, a woman of agency, intellect, and professional relevance. At least that's the intention. The problem isn't Shrileela's performance. She holds her own with effortless grace and maturity, but the screenplay's sporadic interest in their relationship. When Arjun and Prithvi go on a date or share soft, vulnerable moments, it isn't that we don't care. It's that we don't know enough to care. There's a brief nod to Arjun's complicated relationship with intimacy, perhaps rooted in childhood trauma or mistrust. At least, that's the intention. The problem isn't Shrileela's performance. She holds her own with effortless grace and maturity, but the screenplay's sporadic interest in their relationship. When Arjun and Prithvi go on a date or share soft, vulnerable moments, it isn't that we don't care. It's that we don't know enough to care. There's a brief nod to Arjun's complicated relationship with intimacy, perhaps rooted in childhood trauma or mistrust. But just as the film touches this emotional nerve, it abandons it for more action. There's no time invested in the emotional groundwork necessary for this subplot to breathe. Instead, the romance appears as isolated scenes that halt the progress of the investigation rather than enhancing it. The chemistry is natural, the dialogue honest, but the writing simply does not allow their story to develop. So when emotional stakes are raised later, they don't feel earned. The result is a jarring tonal shift each time the narrative cuts from forensic labs and autopsies to candlelit conversations and flirtatious banter. The romance, rather than adding depth, ends up acting like a commercial obligation. Shaky cam. A creative misstep. One of the most frustrating choices in Hit 3 lies in its action choreography, specifically the use of shaky cam. While the latter half redeems itself with long takes and brutal choreography, the first half suffers from hyper-edited, disorienting action sequences. Close-ups, rapid cuts, and wobbling camera movements drown the viewer in visual chaos rather than narrative thrill. Whether it's Arjun brawling in a butcher shop in Kashmir or engaging in hand-to-hand combat in a dense forest, the camera never lets you settle. You don't experience the weight of a punch or the elegance of a fight. Instead, you're left dizzy, watching fragments of a confrontation stitched together in post-production. This technique has often been criticized in Hollywood too. Remember the backlash to Taken 3 or Jason Bourne. It's a style that tries to simulate urgency but often results in incomprehensibility. In a film like Hit 3, where the violence is meant to be stylized and evocative, such editing undercuts the very impact it's trying to deliver. The midpoint, a film in transition. It's around the halfway mark that the film begins to regain its footing. As Arjun begins to piece together the horrifying truth behind the serial killings, the screenplay becomes tighter, the stakes higher. But by then, the damage done by the slow build-up and jarring romantic detours is already felt. Still, credit where it's due, this is not a film that loses the plot. It simply takes its time to find the most engaging version of itself. Once Arjun begins his descent into the antagonist's world, once he dons the iconic white suit and enters the lion's den, the energy shifts, the camera steadies, the rage is focused, and Nani unleashes a storm. When Hit 3 enters its final stretch, it finally starts to feel like the cinematic chaos we were promised. All the groundwork, all the personal trauma, all the scattered breadcrumbs come together in a finale that is equal parts brutal and brilliant. But even here, at the peak of its cinematic confidence, the film runs into a wall called the villain, a pre-climax that pulls no punches. Let's talk about the high point of the film. The pre-climax sequence. This is where director Sailesh Kolanu strips away all pretense and delivers the raw, aggressive brutality that Hit 3 flirted with but never fully committed to until now. And at the center of this carnage is Nani, as Arjun Sarkar in a white suit, swaggering into enemy territory with the cold rage of a man who has been pushed too far. This is the Arjun Sarkar we were waiting for. The man who doesn't hesitate, doesn't explain, and doesn't flinch. The one who swings his baton like it's divine punishment. The long takes in this sequence are exceptionally choreographed. No shaky cam, no rapid fire editing. just clean, impactful action. Each blow has weight, each moment builds tension. The corridor scene especially deserves a standing ovation. As Arjun leads a tactical team through a brutal hallway brawl, you feel the impact of every punch, every gunshot. It's here that the cinematography, stunt design, and Nani's committed performance align perfectly. This is cinematic violence with purpose. This is where the film hits its stride. Mickey J. Maya's BGM, a muted roar. But as much as the visuals rise to the occasion, the background score does not. Mickey J. Maya, a composer known for his soulful melodies, seems somewhat out of place in this genre. The BGM in Hit 3 is functional at best, never bad but rarely great. During moments that demand bombastic flair or haunting intensity, the music lingers in the background rather than punching forward. You sense the ambition on screen, the dark, brooding visuals, the sweat-soaked violence, but the music doesn't elevate those moments.